And so you're balancing all these different things, right? You mentioned you're a mother, you're doing your entrepreneurship, you're also working for the school. How do you balance all these things? And are you a perfectionist at everything that you do?
Oh, that's a great question. So in terms of balance, and I tell this to my students too, because I teach time management. I say I don't know that there's ever fully a balance. It's kind of like a bed sheet. Yeah. You try to pull it to make it perfect, and it gets perfect here. But over here, it gets a little wonky. So you got to go over there to kind of adjust. So I think about that in terms of time and the amount of energy that you can give to certain things, and really accepting that it's never going to be completely perfect because you have 100% to give. Where are you going to give it?
Right. Hey guys, this is the Untapped Potential Podcast. And if you're watching, this is our special Halloween episode. Today, I'm Luigi.
And I'm Mario.
And today, we're tapping in with Amy. Amy is a multi-business owner, higher education professional, and beauty educator from the Tri-Cities area. And she has a passion for entrepreneurship, fitness, and beauty and wellness education. We're going to talk all about that on today's episode. Thank you for joining us, Amy.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's an absolute honor. I know we've been scheduling this for quite some time, so I'm glad we finally were able to find some time to have you on the show. And let's just jump right into it. So tell us a little bit about where you grew up and what got you to where you are today.
Oh, sure. So I grew up in Eastern Washington in West Richland, actually in a trailer park area.
Oh, wow.
And so I am a first generation college student. So I went to a community college. Then I went to the University of Washington. Then I went to Washington State University. Go Cougs!
Go
Cougs! I know you guys.
Yeah.
And then I went to WSU Tri-Cities after that and got my master's in educational leadership and administration. I don't know what else you want.
No, that's awesome. I mean, well, let's just start there. I mean, growing up as a first generation college student, living in the area that you were in, obviously there's some challenges and stuff. Were your parents encouraging you to go to college, or did you just decide to do that just to get out of, just experience something new, I guess?
For me, it was really all about how can I get to a better life? I know what's hard. I know what I don't want to do forever, which is living paycheck to paycheck. That's not fun.
Right.
And so I didn't know what I was doing. I just kind of objectively looked at it and thought, okay, what do people that don't live from paycheck to paycheck do? And for some reason at the time, I just perceived that to be, I think they go to college. Yeah. And so that's what I'm going to do. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no plan. I just knew that that's what I was going to do. And so that was my path from there. And so I went into it kind of going like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how I'm going to fund this. A lot of my friends went away to university. I was the one that went to community college and just was very, very focused on all my friends are at the university. I'm going to go to the university too, because that is what I perceived to be what was my ticket that I was going to build to a better life of not being paycheck to paycheck. Now with higher education, like you guys know, there's so many other things that go with it. But for me, it was really it was purely financial. I didn't know about the relationship building, the social capital, all of the amazing experiences that you would get with going to college. I didn't think about that, or even a career even. I was so focused on not living the paycheck to paycheck life that I was just like, that's what people do. So I'm going to figure it out. And that's exactly what I did.
That's amazing. So when you went to college, did you have any idea of what kind of major would get you to where you wanted to be? Or did you just pick out at random what you liked?
I just had this notion, if you go to college, then you're going to get a career and then you'll live happily ever after. This very distorted
the Disney
view.
ending.
Yeah. And because I didn't know a lot of professionals beyond teachers that had gone to college in my own personal life. So again, trailer park experience, I was always so fortunate to have that experience, but I just didn't know people in that kind of world. So I changed majors a lot of times. And when I was at University of Washington, I was pursuing speech and hearing sciences. And one day I just decided I hated it.
Yeah.
So then I changed it and just really continued to jump into different majors to see what I liked. But again, at the time, I was very much like, well, I just need to graduate so that I can go live happily ever after. It wasn't necessarily about the career because I wasn't looking past the education piece.
I see. I see.
I think it's important that you highlight that too, because I think a lot of first generation college students could relate to that, right?
Yeah.
Like our parents didn't go to college.
We don't know.
Just making it to college, that's huge.
Yes.
Yeah. Graduating from college, you made it.
Oh yeah.
But they don't really talk about, we're not told like, oh, this degree is like a dead end. Like if you want to get this degree, you need to get a master's to do anything. Like the bachelor's isn't going to do much. Exactly. Nobody really like breaks those things down for you. And I like how you pointed out like the social capital too, because that's huge, right? At least speaking from my experience, you know, our parents, they worked like in factories. The social capital, I mean, it might get you some places there, but like in the professional world, you need it. Right.
Absolutely.
It's mandatory.
100%. Yes.
And if you don't even have an idea of the importance of those things, then, you know, you're not going to chase them. And it's important to kind of find them out on your own. And, you know, I think it's really cool how you were able to do that.
Yeah. So when, let's talk a little bit about that, like finding your own path. You went to, you know, obviously you said that you went to UW, you went to WSU. Were you trying to find the major that they offered specifically in those schools as a way to kind of define your own path towards that end goal that you were looking for?
Well, I wanted to go to UW because my friends were at UW.
Oh, I see.
And I wanted to go to the city.
Right.
You know, academically, I was like, well, it's a great school. Again, first gen mindset for me.
You want to go to the best
It's a great school. It's in the city. I'm going to get out and experience that. And I did, which was great. But I wasn't necessarily looking at those other elements in terms of, so they happened to offer what I was seeking in terms of an academic major, but beyond that, I was very focused on the city itself.
I see. And so when you didn't find that, you decided to go to WSU and then pursue that other alternative that you were looking for?
Well, when I was in Seattle, granted, this was a different time without all the technology. Like we're talking like 2003. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So, I'm like, there were not smartphones at the time. So
Flip
there wasn't like social media. There wasn't a way to connect with people at that time.
Right.
It was coming up, but not quite yet. And I was very lonely in Seattle. So it wasn't Seattle. It wasn't UW itself. Academically, it was great. The city is great. I was lonely. And so some of my best friends were over at WSU. Hey, Amy, come on over to WSU. And I was like, I'm not trying to go to Pullman.
You're
I'm
like,
not
it's
trying
in the
to
middle
go.
of wheat fields. There's nothing around. Like
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so my best friend Albert was like, Amy, just come on. Just come over. And I went. And he had set up this potluck with his friends for me. And I went, and all of a sudden I felt like this sense of belonging, like I had friends and I had community.
Oh, that's awesome.
And people were really like, girl, just come on over here. Just come to WSU. And so that I was like, okay, I feel like there is a community there for me.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And so you found that community that you were looking for in Pullman.
Yes.
And when you graduated, what was your degree in?
My bachelor's degree is in ethnic studies.
Gotcha.
And later I went to WSU Tri-Cities and did educational leadership administration.
Gotcha. So you use that degree in towards helping others pursue higher education as well.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And so from that experience, how did you I guess pivot from that into entrepreneurship? Because that's two different lanes, right? And so like what got you into, you know, doing like beauty shows and doing the makeup stuff? Like how did that all happen? Or was that happening in the background?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's a great question. So I'll start by saying while at WSU, then I found some amazing mentors that were there. And I realized, thankfully, I found this at the end of college, like, wow, they've made the difference for me as a first generation college student. I want to be that person for someone else.
Okay.
So once I went into a career in higher education, then that was clearly my path to be the person I didn't have. That's why I work in higher education.
That's
So
awesome.
as a professor for human development, as a director of a federal grant program that helps students who are first generation low income and students with disabilities, that was my path. But in terms of the beauty industry, so that's a great question. So I've always loved art, and throughout college, then I wasn't pursuing trying to be a makeup artist, but I loved that whole world, and people started being like, "Hey, do my makeup," and I'd be like, "Oh no, I don't do makeup."
Were you just not confident in like your skills?
Well,
at
it
that
just
time,
wasn't
or?
something that I was pursuing.
Oh.
So I really enjoyed that, and I enjoyed painting, and then I realized, oh, makeup is actually 3D painting and gives the ability to give someone this sense of confidence in themselves.
I see.
So that's what it did for me, and so people started being like, "Oh, will you do my makeup?" No, I don't do that. So finally, I agreed to do someone's sister's makeup for their wedding. And so then their bridesmaids liked it and their friends so it just really snowballed, and I'm really big on competence.
Oh, okay.
And so if I'm going to be doing other people's faces, then to have that deep understanding of no matter who you are or what age you are or what your skin complexion is, then I needed to be knowledgeable about how to do that.
Oh, I see.
Because different skin textures, different hues of the skin, so then I was like, okay, well, this is happening. It's just coming to me. So I'm going to learn all about it from all that I can from these amazing artists.
Interesting. So there's other obviously people's skins are different, right? But I didn't realize to the degree where, it sounds like you have to pick different makeup to avoid skin irritation or something on other people's skins. And so kind of that type of understanding is what you're talking about?
So yes. So, it can be things like skin allergies, but things like I live in Eastern Washington, and my mom's Japanese. So I have a very certain kind of eye shape. In Eastern Washington, there's not a lot of people that have my eye shape. In Seattle area, yes.
Yeah.
But in Eastern Washington, I remember when I was younger and I got my makeup done and they made me look crazy.
Really?
Because they didn't know how to do my eye shape. Right?
Yeah.
And so I remember that feeling like that doesn't make me feel good. And I want someone that understands my face. And so as a makeup artist, then really catering to understanding everyone. So, it's from someone young through to a 90-something-year-old Filipino woman, to understand that skin and to understand the eye and to understand what products and textures. And so it's all art. Think of it like art and painting.
Yeah.
Right.
On different textures. But not only that, giving someone a feeling wonderful.
That's amazing.
So anyway, to answer your question, I did that all through college. And after I finished college, I continued in that business. And then my business in entrepreneurship in the makeup artistry world continued, and it actually continued to boom because it's a different kind of clientele, the way that you speak with them, the different, it just kind of snowballs on itself, and everything's word of mouth. It's all about the people.
Yeah. I mean, if you do good work, people are going to talk about you.
It's good work, and also who's nice, who really cares, who's excited for your wedding, who's excited for your birthday?
Right.
Who's excited for this monumental photo shoot you're having with your family that you've never done or in the last 10 years? This is a very special day. Right. And to be able to share that relationship with someone. And yes, I am painting their face, but it's an experience.
Right.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so you're balancing all these different things, right? You mentioned you're a mother, you're doing your entrepreneurship. You're also working for the school. How do you balance all these things? And are you a perfectionist at everything that you do?
Oh, that's a great question. So in terms of balance, and I tell this to my students too, because I teach time management. I say I don't know that there's ever fully a balance. It's kind of like a bed sheet. Yeah. You try to pull it to make it perfect, and it gets perfect here. But over here, it gets a little wonky. So you got to go over there to kind of adjust. So I think about that in terms of time and the amount of energy that you can give to certain things, and really accepting that it's never going to be completely perfect because you have 100% to give. Where are you going to give it?
Right.
So as much as I would love to always be a perfectionist. If you do that, your brain's going to explode.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean,
So you
at
do
some
what you
point-
can.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And at some point, like you were saying earlier today, Max, or Mario, you were saying that, I mean, at some point, like you just kind of get gridlocked as a perfectionist, and you just are afraid to start something because, you know, it's not going to be perfect at the end of it. And so sometimes it's just a crippling side effect of pursuing greatness almost.
Yes. And I was listening to this podcast once, and it really helped me. He's like really big on Instagram. I'll have to find it and I'll tell you. But he said something like, if you're creating content and you put it out and it's 70% good, then that's good because you put it out.
Mm-hmm.
And for me before, like, you know, like here I'm like a student, like excellence or nothing kind of a mentality, realizing that that can be an inhibitor.
Right.
If it's 110% every time, if I'm at a 90% and I don't put it out, that's not helping anyone.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so once I really came to terms with like rationalizing, like, okay, it needs to be, of course I strive for excellence always, but ultimately if I put this out how it is, will it help someone? And if the answer is yes, even one person, then I'll output whatever I'm doing.
Oh, wow.
Because it can be more helpful to someone than for me locking it up and hoping it's perfect.
Right.
So you didn't study business, but
Correct.
you know, you are a business woman.
Right.
Yes.
You work in business. How did you learn those skills and apply them to your entrepreneurship?
So, oh gosh, that's a great question. So to preface this, so I also own a business called the Connection Concierge. So what we do with that is, well, we do a lot of things, but our primary role is education and consulting. So we specialize in helping local businesses become more knowledgeable about how to utilize certain kinds of platforms like Instagram, for instance, right now.
And just a quick plug, we have
Yes.
it pulled up on the screen too. So you can find the Connection Concierge on Instagram at the Connection Concierge _
Yes. So what we'll do is we play a few roles. So right now we're really focusing on education and consulting. So if someone comes and says, look, especially during COVID, people that in the past that have said, you know, this whole social media thing, I really wasn't doing it, but I understand that it's important.
Right.
I understand that it can help my business and my livelihood. I don't really understand how to use it. Can you show us? And so going through and providing that kind of education, or a lot of people are like, well, I know I want to be on, but what am I going to talk about? What should I show? So that's really what we're focusing on. Now, if you look at the page currently, then it also shows our outreach component. So we'll go show an experience of a local business, experience it, and be able to speak to that and provide information in that way. So to answer your question about being that my educational background is not in business, how did I jump into entrepreneurship? For my makeup artistry business, that naturally fell to me as a technical skill, right?
Yeah.
But for Connection Concierge, also really looking at everything that I do as a whole, whether it's in education, makeup, or in outreach and education for media and business, it all comes back to people, relatability. So if we're looking at business, what's really one of the most powerful drivers in business? It's people.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I can sell you this straw that's sitting in front of me, or I can make it personal, or I can vouch for the person that I know, like my friend who put all this work into it, and this is their why. And this is why I entrust in them. People invest in people, not always in product.
Right.
Or they'll fall to the product after they understand the people. Like I've heard a lot of times where people are saying, well, social media has changed things. And it's like, well, to a point, but people are still people. We're looking for connection.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking for acceptance. We're looking for relatability. So whether that's in education or in makeup, or in this case, consulting and education for business, it all comes back to the same thing.
Right.
So it's about people and relationships.
Yeah. What are some stories that you have working with local businesses?
Oh my gosh, it's great. So I think of it like, you know how people you have your baby, like maybe it's your dog or your cat or your kid or something that's so dear to you. Or even if it's not something like that, maybe it's something that you're so proud of. like so proud of and passionate about. Right. What I love about local business is they're sharing their baby with you.
Right.
Whether it's an actual baby or not, you know. So their business is their baby. This is oftentimes it's their passion, it's their livelihood, and it's a very vulnerable place where again, because we're in 2021, people are coming in a very vulnerable space,
right,
saying and this is the advantage of having that social capital we've talked about, coming to us saying, you know, you help my friends X and Y, so I have a trust for you, and I'm going to share with you something I have not shared with anyone else, which is these are some of the challenges that are going on with my business right now.
I see.
And so us really being able to be helpful in navigating what do you want communicated to the public. These are some strategies that we've come up with to be able to showcase you. This is what our action plan is, because a lot of times when people are having those challenges, like they need a realistic plan that will be implemented. They need people that care, and they need also hope.
Right. And there's just so much negativity in the world. I mean, especially on social media, online, you know, it's hard to escape it. And it's easy for somebody to be anonymous and just put out like a really negative sentiment about your business. And if it's something that you're really passionate about and you're putting yourself out there and showing that vulnerability, it's almost, you know, it brings your confidence down. It makes people not want to take that risk again almost.
Yes, exactly.
And so like, what are some of those experiences? Like, how do you tell people how to handle negative comments or negativity overall on social media?
Well, I think that our big thing is like, I'm like positivity. No, not every day is a positive day. You know, like we can't be happy all the time, but looking at like, okay, anyone that gives you something negative, they're not your real consumer.
Right.
They're not loyal to you. They're not invested in you. Does it, you know, for some people, like it really affects them. It hurts because we're humans. Like that's personal because that's their baby they're sharing with you. It's their small business, their local business. That's very personal. But also recognizing these aren't people that are rallying for you. They're not coming for you. We're here to hone your people, like your Allegiant people that love you, that want to blow you up and blast you and just show you all the love. So that's really where we intentionally focus our time and energy on serving the people who are there for you. So it's really all about service, serving your people. But to answer a question about some of the experiences that we've had with the Connection Concierge, we're very experience focused in terms of the businesses that we have the privilege of showcasing. We've met so many amazing people. They're like brilliant. And I'm like, yes, there's so much talent here. And these people just like live by what they do. Like if they do flowers, they love flowers.
That's awesome.
If they sell cookies, they love cookies. Like they live like that.
Real. I want to buy cookies or flowers from that person.
Well, and not only that, like beyond the business side, these are places that I personally go to, or that I personally can say, this is the advantage I have. Again, it's about the people. The owner of this place is amazing. Like I love them. And so when people ask me, and people do ask me like, Amy, what do you really think about that vodka? And I'm like, do you know how much of that vodka I've consumed? A lot. Like it's excellent regardless of if we have the honor of representing them or not. Right. We are doing what we believe in, but the people, then I can say, and did you know this story? I got to go behind the scenes and hear about the making of this, to hear about the things that people have overcome, to hear about the challenges and what they've been working through and what they're doing in the future and what their plans are. Like it's almost like a behind the scenes of someone loving their baby and sharing that with you.
No, that's amazing. Have you ever turned down anybody?
Yes.
Like, okay, so you've been like, you know what, your pizza sucks, dude. Like, I don't want to.
Well, so what happens with us anyway is there's an application process, but really only truly because we want to be representing people and products and services, experiences that we personally believe in, like I personally would do. So my big thing is like, I can't swim. I'm terrified of open water. And where we live, paddle boarding is very popular.
Next to Columbia River, right?
Exactly. See, So if I were, and no one's approached us yet about this, but if I were to be approached for paddleboarding, I would decline that because I'm not going to say, ooh, this paddleboarding is great. I am terrified of the river. Like, I can't swim. Like, that's not authentic, and that's not something that works into my life.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would be able to offer something else in terms of education and consulting, in terms of the kinds of things that they could do on their platform to be able to provide information and content to the public. So I can help in other ways, but I wouldn't be able to represent them and say, hey, I go paddleboarding. No, I can't. I can't even swim. So the answer is yes, we do decline people, but just because of that, it needs to fit in authentically.
Yeah, and that makes sense.
And also knowing like if someone's not friendly or nice, again, it's about people. Like,
right.
I care that people are nice. That matters.
Yeah, you don't want to promote somebody who has like a 1-star Yelp review because of the owner and being rude and.
No, I don't care how good. Like I love good products, but if the people aren't nice, that goes very far. Because as humans, we care.
Absolutely.
Like we want to be treated nicely. So
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you touched on it, but a lot of businesses have been put in a tough spot because of COVID.
Yes.
And I'm sure you've talked with a lot of businesses and consulted them on how they could maybe, improve a little bit through these hard times. Mm-hmm. What are some common themes that you've seen kind of across the board, or some advice that you can give to maybe some business owners that may be watching right now?
Ooh, that's a great question. Something that's commonly come up is, how can I justify the cost? Like, how can I show value when other competitors are priced lower? How can I justify that I want to be in the upper ranks of the money, right? Like, how can I be more luxury? How can I show that I'm luxury? How can I, so that's something that's really big. And something that we tell people is show the process, show your expertise. If it's something that you're creating, if it's something you're working on, if it's a behind the scenes, it's like this product or service didn't just magically come up and you put it on the shelf, or you didn't just magically become excellent and knowledgeable. Show yourself, show your process, show the behind the scenes, because there is a value in that. It elevates the value, and also it personalizes it. Like, wow, someone is busting their ass to create this. This is why I'm going to choose to go to this person. Maybe it's a product. Like, I'm going to go to this person because I saw their hands creating this thing. This is so elaborate. This took so many hours versus going and buying it at a major retailer.
Right. Yeah, it's the sweat equity that you don't see.
Exactly.
And people see
show
like
it.
People see like a shiny box. Like, for example,
what
I
did
sell
it
headbands.
take to get to the box?
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, like you don't show like the 6 months or whatever of product development that it took, the marketing, the buying the packaging and all that. So that's a really good piece of advice for sure.
Show it. And then you're emotionally invested, like, to go on the journey of, for example, this headband, to see like the sketches and to see, like, I'm on the journey. So I'm emotionally invested. So when it's out, not only am I going to buy that product, I'm going to love it, and I'm going to tell everybody about it and be able to speak to that process because I've emotionally partaken in that. So that's a huge one. And it's something that people are doing already, but it's a matter of taking that time. Turn on your phone, show the process.
Yeah. And take time to create it too. A lot of people aren't confident about creating content.
Yes.
They don't know. They haven't done it before,
Yes.
And so what do you tell people? Like, they're like, I have an Instagram account. I don't really post, but what would you say is the first step for them to do that? Just take a photo, and like,
exist.
Yeah.
Make it exist. Even if you're not posting constantly on your feed, let it exist. And the majority of the viewership is going to be, at least at this current time, because Instagram's always changing, is via Reels, and stories are high engagement.
Right.
So looking at, if you're going to take the time to create the content, sure, you can post on the feed because you need to exist. But I always tell people on stories, at least currently in our current state until it changes, that stories is kind of your playground to show the informal. Maybe make your feed itself polished, but we're showing the informal or vulnerability. Like, if you are a custom cookie creator, for instance, show your messy cooks. I want to see the mess.
Right.
I see the final perfect result of the image you've taken at the end, but show me the mess.
Show me all the dirty dishes you have to clean up.
Because we are humans and we've all experienced the mess. That's relatable.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, that's a gem. That's huge.
Yeah. If you are truly you and you're showing a little bit more of yourself and how you are, you're going to attract those kinds of people.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I want to pivot to your other Instagram page, your main one. Explain to me, like, how do you bring that advice that you were telling us to life on your own social media?
Sure. So on my at Amy with Lemon page, my focus is beauty and wellness. And we were talking about this earlier, as someone who is almost 40 years old, looking at things that I can invest in that actually work. I like to show the nitty gritty that maybe people aren't publicly showing.
Right.
So like, I'll show my face getting numbed up. I will show the laser like going on my skin. I will show like, this is how I'm doing certain things, or this was my personal experience, and I'll take people on that journey. And when people are like, oh my God, did that hurt? I've been thinking about getting laser hair removal. Did it hurt? On a scale of 10, what was your experience? Or, who do you trust? Where do you trust? What kinds of questions should I be asking? Or, but because I think just due to fear, lack of information, and people not really showing looking silly,
right.
Which
people don't want to be mocked, almost, but it's almost showing that vulnerability shows a humility side of it too. And it helps people relate, like you were saying.
Like a messy kitchen,
right.
A messy house. My house is taken over. So I have a 4-year-old. It's a princess wonderland of pink everywhere. And I was the person, I was like, there will be no way that toys will be in my living room. My toys are my whole living room. Like it's a hot mess of princess throw up in there. But that's, again, it's a people thing. Like that's relatable. A lot of people are like, oh my gosh, my living room is also a hot mess filled with children's things. And I swore I would never be that person. So, whether that's life stuff, but again, my focus is primarily going to be beauty experiences and services that work or don't. And also my big thing, especially in this really interesting space of my current age, is going, oh my gosh, like before, of course it's important to take care of yourself, but all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, if I don't drink enough water, my back's going to hurt. Like I've got to get my water in. I've got to move my body, because if I don't, I'm going to just feel like so tired. And so for me, I wasn't an athlete before, like into sports or fitness, and I didn't know how to lift weights. And in the last year and a half, then I've been really big on learning that. And I'll show myself saying like, look, this is a new lift I'm trying. Am I doing it 100% right? No, I'm not, because you know how many DMs I get where people are like, you're not doing that right. But what's really cool that I found about the fitness community is so this is like, I've never been on a team, like a sports team. Like I didn't have that experience of camaraderie and support in that way. So in this fitness space, or in this lifting space, but fitness in general, I find having people come out, and they'll come out and say, you're not quite lifting right, but they're coming from it in a positive way, saying like, go ahead and this looks good and this looks good, but go ahead and put your shoulders back more.
Oh, like, I see.
You're doing so good.
Criticism.
Yeah, like you're doing so good. Like people, I don't even know, they're rooting for you.
Yeah.
And so maybe I look ridiculous. Maybe I am lifting it wrong, but to show, especially I think as women, we're in this culture where a lot of people aren't strength training, resistance training. And I'm not saying everybody should like lift big weight, but I'm just saying like take care of yourself, and it's appropriate to do resistance training. Like you need to be strong,
right,
and take care of yourself, especially as you're aging. So that is my big thing in saying like, look, I might look silly, but I'm trying. Yeah. And look, I can lift a lot of weight now, and it's really cool. Because one of the photographers, I got to set to do makeup, and she goes, oh, good. I've been waiting for you to come because I need you to lift this table. Oh, wow. That was like the best.
I know you could do it. There's video evidence.
Right? That's the best compliment I could ever get. Like, you were waiting for me to lift that table because you think I'm strong. Like, that's the coolest thing.
That's awesome.
It sounds like vulnerability plays a big part in your business and your personal life.
It is.
Has that always been a strength of yours? Have you always been comfortable being vulnerable like that?
I think that pre-COVID especially, then because of the nature of what I do at the college, I work a lot of one-on-one, or I'm teaching a class that I've established a relationship with and saying, look, you guys, the book says this, but this is the real deal.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and here are some examples of people I personally know that have been through XYZ. That goes a lot further. So I knew the formula in terms of relational, like one-on-one or small group, whatever. Right. But I hadn't necessarily implemented that in my media, because media is a lot bigger.
Right.
Media is a space where a lot of times, I guess, especially pre-COVID, you know, we want to look a certain way and be a certain way and create this amazing thing. And it is, and that's fun. Like, do that. But also, some days are just hard. And I'm not someone who's out there is saying, like, incrementally, this is my day, or incrementally, like, these are negative things. My space is more like, hey, I'm learning, and this is what it looks like when I'm learning. And if you try to learn, you might look kind of like this too.
Right.
And I look like this, so it's okay. Right. You know, and maybe I don't always do the lift right, but now I can lift a lot, and it's cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So just put yourself out there and try. But it's formulaic in that way. But again, the relatability. No one wants to look silly, or they don't want to feel embarrassed, or they don't want to look like it's an uphill battle to getting to success. A lot of people show the success, and that's awesome. Like, celebrate that. But it doesn't just happen. You guys know that.
Yeah, you put in the work.
You put in the work,
mm-hmm.
and you have to be consistent, and you have to have a plan. And if that plan doesn't work, you have to pivot and make a new plan.
Right.
So what does that look like?
Have you gotten a lot of people who have decided to try these different things that have replied to you or sent you a DM saying, hey, like, you've sent me, or you've encouraged me to do this, and now I'm doing this and I really love it. Mm-hmm. And have you been surprised by the response, or tell me a little bit more about that?
Yes, it's the best thing ever. Like, so I'm like scrolling through stories. I see this woman is deadlifting like 245 pounds.
Oh,
and
wow.
So I replied to it, and I was like, yeah, like, and she messaged me back, and she was like, it's because I saw you lifting heavy. Wow. And I was like, what? She was like, yeah, so I started doing it. And she's someone that doesn't even necessarily, like, she doesn't story reply. She doesn't comment on my stuff. She doesn't like my stuff. I have no idea. But I think my biggest thing is remembering you never know who's watching. Right. And for me, if it helps one person, then it's worth it. You know, whatever you're posting, if it helps one person, that's worth it. So that's one example. But other people, like, I show, if you guys ever follow me, then maybe I'm doing a million things, so I won't always be posting on my story, but I'll always post my workout, because that's my accountability way. Right. So I'll show, like, my feet walking on the road. But people that I don't even know will show their feet walking to be like, getting my movement in today. You know, it's just the smallest things. It doesn't have to be, I think with content creation, it doesn't always have to be this big production. And I appreciate the production. I'm definitely a part of that. And I love that. And there's an art in that. But if you know that you can provide help in some way, maybe you're showing your feet walking, freaking post it.
Yeah, and people will follow you. Like you said, you never know who's watching.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the amazing part of social media.
A lot of fun. People message me. They're like, oh, I became a mom, and guess what? Like, I lost 50 pounds and blah, blah, blah. And it's because I've been watching you. And I'm like, really? I've never even, like, in my mind, I'm like, we've never even spoken. I had no idea. But I think just, for me, it's always like J-Lo, because she's 52 and she's bomb and strong. And, you know, like, I don't know J-Lo. I don't message J-Lo, but she exists. So I'm always like, well, J-Lo does it. I'm gonna do it too. So by people messaging me saying, well, you're a mom, and, you know, you have abs, and that's so cool. And so then I think maybe I can do it too. That's the best.
Yeah.
So absolutely. To answer your question, yes, people have messaged me. It's great. It's like the best thing ever.
That's awesome. So I think I want to, first of all, thank you again for joining the show. We loved our conversation today with you.
Yeah, thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
If you want to talk to Amy, I mean, feel free to DM her. Her
Oh,
DMs are
DM me
open.
all the time. Yeah.
It's at Amy with Lemon. We'll put it on the description. It's also on the screen right now. If you want to learn more about the Connection Concierge, you can find them at @theconnectionconcierge_ on Instagram as well. But yeah, thank you again for joining us.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you guys so
and
much.
thank you for watching the episode. So make sure to like the video to help us in the algorithm, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we'll catch you next time.